All right, everyone, I'm here kind of like a minute drive from where I live and visiting a dear friend by the name of Brad. And I think he's the perfect candidate for us to interview for our third episode of Spotlight Leadership. So before we begin and kind of ask some leadership questions, let's ask Brad to introduce himself. Brad, can you introduce yourself? Yeah.
So I'm Brad Zabranki, pastor of Park Ridge Community Church in Bothell, Washington, and 56 years old. Been doing it since I was about 38. Been involved in ministry. My dad started Park Ridge Community Church in 1964, and so I grew up with my dad as a pastor. And then after high school, went off and got an engineering degree and worked in that field for some years, and then came back into ministry full time.
Okay. Right. Now, you said your dad started this church and planted this church. Can you give us kind of like some introduction about this ministry, where it's located, and what kind of other extra ministries are you doing? Because I know that you guys do a whole lot, not just Sunday worship and the spiritual aspect, but you're doing some other things that really impact this community.
Yeah, so my dad, being an engineer at Boeing and becoming a Christian, he didn't really have a lot of background. And so it was actually 4 years after he became a Christian, he started the church. We're in north end of Bothell, we're Snohomish County, but unincorporated Bothell. And back in the day when he moved here, another church had bought this property. Fellowship Church had bought this property. When he moved here, people used to come camp out here because it was so far out the distance. But now we're in the middle of suburbia.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, sorry, slipped my mind. Where are we going?
So some of the ministries that you're doing, apart from just the congregational lifestyle and the fellowship.
Yeah, so our church has always been a pretty outreach-focused church. Years ago, we used to do vacation Bible schools, and then we realized after a while, or years later, that we were reaching out to a lot of church families. Then we adjusted that. But I've always had a focus on trying to do things that were meeting the needs of the community around us. So we started a farmer's market years ago because we're trying to create community. So we're called a community church, so I try to create community. Right. We have a ton of groups that use our facility through the week, and homeowner associations, where we have their annual meetings here all the time, and those kind of things. Now, we started, a lot of people from India had moved into our area 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and so we tried multiple things to reach out to them. There were high majority were Hindus. Tried multiple things to reach out to them, and not really much success. But we hit a target when we started a preschool, and they valued education for their children.
That's right.
And most missions work I've discovered is to the very to the poor in India. And so these aren't the poor that are coming here, and they look at Christianity has nothing really to do with us. But they want their kids to have a good education. So we have 120 kids in our preschool. Wow. And and they'll let us teach their children about Jesus. So we just give them the gospel as hard as we can, and that's been a great outreach. And then there's a need for parents for child care. So we started before and after school daycare years ago, and that's met a need. And I was doing engineering work, I had found kind of a niche of finding land that didn't have a lot of value that I could create value in. And I was able to, then after doing that for several years, start living off the income from it. And I realized, wow, I'm living off of basically one piece of property, and we have a great resource here. We have 18 acres in this urban area. It's worth quite a bit of money now. And we ought to be able to do a whole bunch of stuff that could generate money for God's kingdom. And so we, years ago, got this idea of starting a family entertainment center, building a family entertainment center, a place where parents would bring their kids. And it was kind of birthed from reading George Barna's book, Transforming Children into Spiritual Champions. And in George Barna's research, he showed that when you present the gospel to a child, there's I think it's 36% chance they'll accept Christ. And every age category above that drops down to 4 to 6%. And yet most churches in America, they put their energy into adults, which is one of the hardest groups to reach. And we have whole generations that are growing up without getting a biblical worldview. So we're using this facility. We're in the middle of building it right now. We're almost done. But the idea is that it's going to create more opportunities for us to reach out to the world around us. And it'll also become, I'm convinced it'll be an income generator, that we can do ministry stuff with the resources that come in from outside of our church community. Years ago, we started selling fireworks, and that's really mushroomed into a we usually have in the 20s fireworks stands,
Mhm.
and like last year we did over $1 million in sales in total. And so that is all money outside of God's kingdom that we bring into God's kingdom and use for kingdom purposes.
Wow. One of the things that you said was you bring money outside of the kingdom and you bring it into the kingdom. I also know that you guys do a coffee stand.
Yeah.
So there's how many other ventures are you doing apart from the spiritual community and fellowship and worship that you're doing here at Park Ridge?
Well, whenever someone gets an idea, if they want to carry that idea, we try to bless them and help them to carry that idea. So back in 2000 is when we started the coffee stand. And it was just something that we did from 5:30 in the morning till 9, giving away free lattes and mochas and drinks. And we saw a ton of people become Christians. And then we said, hey, let's turn it into a business. And in preparation for this family entertainment center we're going to run. And so when we realized that when we sell coffee, we don't get near the opportunities to present the gospel. People aren't going to put up with as much when they're not getting a free cup of coffee. But we still have great results. We still see good things happen from it. Different things. Our youth leader years ago said, hey, we have these big fields, soccer fields, and so let's do some films out in the field. So in the summers we rent feature films and show them, have a big screen and show them out in the field. And it's just another venue to try to bring people onto our campus, to try to meet them through conversations, to be able to build a relationship with them, to be able to help them to see that Jesus clearly can meet the needs that they have in their lives. Being encouragement to them that way.
Yeah, being a person that lives in Bothell, I think it's kind of, you're one of the few churches that are very welcoming, because I've actually visited the farmers market. I've actually had many times where I came and just wanted to talk, and they're open and willing, and a lot of things outside, like the firework sales that you guys do and the family center. Now, for those people who might not know the actual family center, can you give us kind of a bigger picture as to, okay, what do you envision that's going to be like in 5 years? And how do you think it's going to bless the community here in Bothell and maybe beyond?
Yeah, okay. So our basement, our building is 5,000 square feet on each floor. We have 2 floors.
Wow.
And so our basement now is completely filled with our preschool.
Okay.
And because of building use zoning, it's assembly and it's not educational. We can't get it licensed as an educational facility. And so we built this facility out there. So we had a conditional use permit for a 16,800 square foot building. And so we have a basement in it, then the main floor, and then there's some mezzanine area too. So it's about 37,000 square feet is the total building size.
Wow.
And it's got a gymnasium in it, a high school size gymnasium. It's got we have a laser tag room, so an area for a laser tag. We have 2 escape rooms that are based off of. One of them is you're solving riddles of finding Solomon's wisdom, where you got a source of wisdom from. So they're Bible, but they're not overtly Bible. And we're trying to teach biblical truths. And then there's a big climbing structure. So it's a deal that parents can bring their children to come play. And there's multiple things that the kids can do while they're here. And then there has a restaurant in it also that will people can just order their lunch or meals, host birthday parties, team parties. The idea is trying to create a place where kids go, I want to go back there. And that we can then present, hey, we're having this, scientists come in and do some chemistry demonstrations or something, present the gospel, or illusionists, or different kinds of evangelistic kind of outreaches to bring people in and promote parenting classes, marriage classes, and things like that we can try and reach out to the community. So trying to create, because so many people drive by us.
That's right.
And they see that we do things, but they don't really know how much fun we're having inside and what Jesus means to us. So.